Natalie Show. We are live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio here at Fifth and State, having the crucial conversations that Erie needs. And today we're turning to tourism and a huge development that is happening here with our organization, VisitErie. And we want to welcome in John Oliver, the CEO of VisitErie. John, good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, too.
It's a big day for VisitErie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a big day for the tourism industry in Erie.
And you could even say, from what I heard today, it's a big day for the region in general.
Yes, that's what our hope is. We introduced a new brand.
So how does an idea of saying, boy, we really got to look at this get started?
Well, our current or our past logo that we had in that brand, we started to realize as we did research and talked to visitors that we really were projecting kind of a summer-centric.
Right.
Our brand had the sun and, the seagulls, the birds. And what we started to realize is that over time, we've truly become a four-season destination, that the tourism assets we have expanded beyond what they were 15 years ago, 20 years ago, in terms of just being focused really on the beach and Presque Isle. And so we started to say we need to do a better job of projecting who Erie really is for our potential visitors and what are they looking for.
And you said today is data driven. So did you start with research?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, we've been doing research the last couple of years with a research company. So we've got a really good idea of what people are doing when they're here, where they're going and what they're seeing. And so, as we said, we need to change our messaging, our look, how the community is perceived. We went to the same company that we do for our marketing, Red House Communications, who do branding as part of what they do, and said, we need to start to look at how do we update, how do we look at a new brand? What do we really need to move into the next growth, the next phase of where we're heading? And that began then with research. We put together a group of, I think, 50 stakeholders locally.
Yeah.
And those are, they were VisitErie partners, elected officials, economic development agency, just stakeholders in the community, and talk to them locally. What do they see Erie as? What are the assets that they like best, and how do they feel about Erie? And then from there, we went out. They hired a survey company who then surveyed visitors, potential visitors, and they went into our markets. These were visitors from Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Cleveland, Johnstown, Altoona, and basically the same thing. What do you look for when you go on a vacation? What do you have you been to Erie? What did you think about Erie? Why did you like it? What would it take to bring you to Erie for those that haven't? And after they gathered all of that information, they then sat down and they began to put together some concepts, taking what they heard and starting to put together, basically, it started out, a brand is more than just the logo, but our logo and tagline. They came up with some ideas. Actually, they came up with 13 different.
Is that right?
Yeah. And so there were 3 of us on staff that sat down, looked as they presented all 13 of these items. We pared it down to 7, and then internally we got down to 4. And at that point then, our board of directors, we had the board put together a subcommittee, and they sat down and with us and the agency, and we then pared it down from 4 to 2. And at that point then, the agency went back out, resurveyed, not the same people, but said, okay, here are 2 brands that we're looking at. What resonates with you?
Yeah.
And with the feedback we got, and they received 2,000 replies to this survey. that they sent out, which is, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Nobody was incentivized. It wasn't like they were offering you, you win something or you get something. But we took a look at all of the information, and out of that came what we felt really pulled together what visitors were looking for when they want to go on a vacation. And hence we came up with VisitErie, a good life, great lake.
Yeah, talk about and again, I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but I'm really interested in how this is done. It's not just the visual logo, but you had to really figure out what you wanted to say about Erie.
Yes, and it's what you say and how you want people to feel about the area. And so, the logo and the tagline is certainly what's very visible. It's what jumps out. But it's really far more than that. It's what's behind that, and what do we have that give people the sense that this is the good life. And we actually heard that from some of the survey responses, that it's a good life coming up to Erie. It's what I think. And so that allowed us to start to look at, how do we position that? How are we going to show it through photography and videography of a good life? And we also had said to the agency up front, we need a brand that is going to be primarily tourist oriented. That what can we do to attract tourists and visitors? That's our mission,
Right.
Is to do that. But we wanted something that we felt perhaps other sectors in the community could pick up on that. We deal a lot with hospitals who are out with their out attempting to encourage doctors to and others to relocate to Erie. Universities, not only are they looking for professors and educators, but they're also looking to attract students to come here. And so that's why we started to think, this idea of good life, great lake. The lake is our iconic asset. It's what we have in terms of the beaches that others don't. It always will be something that's very key. So the Great Lake was important that we, position us as part of that. Again, going back to the good life, our photography that we're going to be out and taking it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to have someone exactly centered in a picture. And it's going to look like you snap the picture with your camera, but that's the feeling, that's the sense that we want, that people will sit there and say, yeah, I remember that. What a great time we had there. That was really, a nice place we went to, and they have their pictures, which they take and will look at.
I think about all the reasons why somebody comes to Erie. And yes, the lake, going to the beach. How many people have we interviewed where I grew up in Pittsburgh and we used to come into the beach, several times a summer. We love hearing those stories.
Right.
But you could be coming for a family reunion, a class reunion, a death in the family, a convention. Again, I can't help but think about the optometrist from Pennsylvania coming to Erie, and it just so happens to be the eclipse, right?
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you come here. You might be a vendor that is doing a show at one of the conventions or at the RV show or something. There's a lot of reasons why.
Right.
Does something like this logo and even the positioning statement of Good Life, Great Lake, does that come into play for those types of visitors?
Absolutely. Again, we think it even comes into play for residents who live here.
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely.
We're
right?
here because it's a good life. And we know that, visitors coming in, they've changed over time. They're not a static visitor that just comes in and wants to look at things and see. They want to be active and involved. So outdoors activities are important for them. Food. That everyone who travels wants to try restaurants, wants to look at what's the local food, and we have a lot of that
Yeah.
we can offer. So, that's the kind of things that we're looking at for what visitors are, they're showing the trends of the kind of activities that they're looking to do.
It's interesting. In the media packet, there's a picture of it looks like a female singer or somebody, like part of a band, and there's a crowd there, and that's what's on our website right now as a front picture. Where is that, and what is that from?
Oliver's Beer Garden.
So that's from the beer garden.
Yes.
Do you remember who the band was?
I don't remember who the band was. We're using a lot initially. We're using a kind of crowdsourced photography that we have been using, that we've taken. We're going to be, first part of June, we're going to be going out and shooting our own photos and videography for commercials, etc.
Yeah.
That we're going to be able to. But that's the kind of things that we're
I
trying
mean, it was just kind of this organic crowd seeing a band in the summer in Erie, at a place that didn't exist 5 years ago, basically.
Right. That's kind of, it's one photograph really tells a whole story.
Right.
And so that's kind of what we're going to be looking to do as we go out and promote the brand and this whole new sense of coming to Erie for the good life. Carefree, stress-free. There's ease of access. I mean, we hear that all the time. There people that are coming from, Pittsburgh or Buffalo or Philadelphia or whatever, they're saying, oh my gosh, everybody, you can get around so easily. There's no pressure, no stress when they're here. It's what people go on vacations generally for.
Right.
It's, and even if they're active on the vacation, it's still stress-free. From their everyday life, and we think that this brand will convey that message better than we have in the past.
John Oliver is with us, CEO of Visit Erie. Take our first break. It's Talk Erie at 4:18. Stay with us. John Oliver is our guest here on Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show. It's the big VisitErie rebrand. VisitErie, good life, great lake. Tell you what, John, we've got to have more people in the city drink this Kool-Aid, because this is I think the branding, the value proposition, good life, great lake, I think it's brilliant. I really do. I like it visually. It looks very much like hey, life is good here. Mm-hmm. And I get the view. Here's what your release said. VisitErie's new identity features a nautical-inspired logo, a warm and inviting color palette of lake blues and nature hues, seasonal imagery, and elements that immerse visitors in the essence of the good life. It's true.
It is. And, interesting, when we looked at the color palette, one of the primary colors is what looks to be a navy blue. Mm-hmm. But it's called Eclipse Blue. And the reason why is there was someone from Red House Communications who was up here last year for the eclipse. And at the moment of totality here, he had a spectrometer that actually came up with what the color was.
Is that right?
And we're using that color as one of our main colors.
I love stories like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it's our own color, Eclipse Blue, and then we went through an incredible number of iterations on the green. So we got to what we felt really fit with what we were doing, and that's lake green, and and so we have lake blue, which is the brighter blue. So again, there's so much. Even I was just astounded, and now understand why it took 18 months from the time we started till today when we were able to roll this out. There's just so many components and so many things that you really want to make sure is absolutely right and fits.
Let me say something controversial, and you could push back. I feel like that the tourism industry has been so profitable lately, it allowed you, with your percentage that you get, to do something really kind of big time. Whereas maybe 15 years ago, we didn't have the cash to do this kind of thing. We had a nice logo, don't get me wrong, but it's probably developed maybe locally and, with not as much exhaustive thought, if you will.
Well, yeah, and when we did this, we really didn't have this in-depth brand. We had a logo and a tagline that we thought, told our story, which it did. But, what we've got now is far more than a logo and a tagline. It's a feeling, and it's a sense of how we're going to promote and what visitors are looking for. And you're right. We've been able to acquire the funding necessary to undertake something this big, but also with the recognition that we anticipate that this brand is going to have a shelf life of at least 10 years. So if you look and amortize the cost over 10 years,
right,
it's really not that expensive. But, we thought, if we're going to do this, let's do this right.
100%.
That we want to make sure, and because, there's a lot more competition out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All vying for the same visitor. We vie against Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Buffalo. They're trying to attract the same people we're trying to attract. So, the competition is out there. We wanted to make sure that we're going to do something that maybe makes us stand out and allows us to really feature and focus on what a visitor has told us that they'd like to, what would motivate them to choose a destination to come for a vacation.
You mentioned that you've been able to track where people go, what people do when they come here, what they spend money on, right? And how much of that kind of was fed back to your agency and saying, okay, these are the kinds of looks that we want, and these are the kinds of vibes that we want.
Yeah, that information is fed back to them on a monthly basis.
Okay, wow.
Because we also use that information to determining where we're advertising and what we might want to stress at the time. So, and it also allows us to go out to our tourism partners here and give them an idea where people might be coming from. We can't track exact numbers, but we can track as trends. And so we're able to look at an attraction, and I think we have 250 points of interest that are
Wow.
being tracked. So we're able to go back out and say, X percentage of people that we've been tracking from this destination are coming to your place. And so they're able to, in some ways, we can go back to, say, Scott Enterprises and say, this is kind of what we're seeing, percentages. They're able to say, oh, that's something maybe we didn't know. We'll invest a little more of our own advertising. So we're able to offer this information not only to drive advertising the destination, but also to assist our partners who might want to advertise outside of Erie and give them a better idea of when people are coming too. The one thing we found in this was Buffalo, people from the Buffalo market were not coming to Erie in the summer.
No, they don't need to.
They're coming here in the fall and the winter, and it's Splash Lagoon and it's shopping. And so what it allowed us to do was, rather than focus heavily advertising Buffalo in the summer, while we still remind them that we're here, it allowed us to say, okay, let's look at Johnstown, Altoona State College, that in Harrisburg. And so we started advertising there, and we're now starting to see an increase in the visitation from those markets coming to us. The other thing is 65% of people who are coming here to Erie now, or at least last year, stayed overnight.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's showing we have the assets to keep people here. We just need to tell more of them what we have to get them here. And you mentioned the financial impact, and last number. Last year, 14% of all spending in the county, all spending by residents and everyone, 14% were by people from more than 60 miles away.
Wow. So that's who's contributing to our actual economy on a daily basis.
And those are people, I've often said, who aren't looking for social service programs. They don't need our schools.
Yes.
They're coming in here and just spending money, and then they leave.
Right. We don't have to clean up after them.
We want them to come back
Right.
again and again.
Yeah.
But we don't have to provide the services that we as residents, expect and do need.
I had Gus Pine in the chair that you're sitting in last week from Erie Events, and we talked about how his frontline workers, like his folks at the convention center, at the hotels, at the Warner and the ballpark and the arena, I mean, they make such a huge difference to make your job a little bit easier, right? I mean, it's essential that.
They are frontline and absolutely the key for visitors to want to come back and have a great experience.
It's the third biggest provider of economic power. It's the tourism industry. And no, there's not some grand master who is shutting down plants so that we can build hotels. that is a myth that needs to go away, and it should have been gone a long time. We're talking to the CEO of VisitErie, John Oliver. We're well over $1 billion every year, right? I mean,
yeah, it's about a 1.2 billion, but we're over $1 billion in visitor spending.
That's $1,200,000,000 of visitor spending.
Yes.
All right, and we have this new brand that was rolled out today. You could see it on our website at talkerie.com. Also, there's the YouTube embed of the sizzle reel, they call it, right? So it kind of gets you really excited about it. It highlights the brand pillars, which are rooted in the values that define the good life, a vibrant blend of community, natural beauty, and family-friendly activities for all ages. So I want to do a little exercise with you, John, because, again, you are a tourism consultant and bureau, and so I want to see if you could give some help. I'm thinking of a hypothetical small business, mom pop, let's say. Okay. Whether it is they sell gifts or notions, or maybe they're a bar and they sell food or something like that. And let's say they're running about 80-90% locals that support them. What would you suggest to somebody like that who says, I really want to open myself up to more of the tourism business, to kind of get on the map, even as a small, I'm never going to be, a Scott Enterprises or a Waldemar, one of the big guys, right? But I've got this shop and I'd like to see if I can get more traffic.
Yeah, I mean, we have 330 partners at VisitErie. And so we have a lot of very small businesses. And what they're looking, and what we tell them is, well, you're right, the majority of their business is probably local, but this could be the extra, adding on tourism and the opportunity to make visitors aware, because we try to let them know visitors are looking for new and unique experiences too when they travel. They're not all looking for chain restaurants, chain stores. They're looking for some local. And, I don't want to say that they don't look for chain. It's a combination. But
right, but I mean, like they don't necessarily need to go to Buffalo Wild Wings. They maybe would want some local recipe of wings and a good beer, right?
Right. I mean, we hear that all the time. That is one of the trends, that it's experiencing different food, and so with a small business, they have an opportunity to be promoted, to be listed, on our website, which is visited by visitors. Our visitor guide that we do annually, that comes out, that we're distributing out of town to visitors, and when they arrive here, our information centers, it's an opportunity for them to expand their business with a new market.
Yeah. I mean, so you do have assets that they could kind of jump in on, whether it's the visitor's guide or the website or something. I mean, they should first off think about joining. Is there a membership process?
Yes, and that we have 330 partners that have joined us. When they join, you mentioned small restaurant. We have Restaurant Week. That's something VisitErie puts on an annual basis that we're promoting, and so they have an opportunity to participate in that at virtually no cost.
That's awesome.
And we continue to do that because I think it's great to try to assist them to find business at a time it might be slow for them. Restaurants, again, in the summer, a lot of people locals are not necessarily going to restaurants. They're doing cookouts in their yard, etc. But visitors coming into town are looking for places to go and eat.
I have to do true confession. I like to use TripAdvisor here in town because I want to know what the visitors are thinking as far as what they like. And so, there's a place like Pineapple Eddie's, which is listed very high on TripAdvisor, is a place I want to go. If I'm just like, I really need to go out to eat. Let's figure out, oh, the Tap House is ranked top 10 or top 15. What, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I mean, and so it gives me an option just to be more creative
Right.
with my choices of going out to eat instead of getting the pizza.
Right.
Are you up for a phone call? Let's see if we can grab one here. Hi, you're live with Joel and John Oliver from VisitErie on Talk Erie. Go ahead.
Hello. Two things from Branchville. One, I might have missed it because I'm driving. Has Canada, are they advertising a lot in Canada? And two, I've been in several cities that have vending machines that just have local items in the vending machines, that they will have hats and T-shirts and decals, beach glass type situation, different mugs and this and that. I was wondering, is there any thought of having vending machines like that placed throughout the city, that in a hotel lobby you would have a vending machine with local items, or at the airport, or at the Dobbins Landing,
Sure.
that type situation.
Let me let him answer off the air. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks. Where can you get trinkets and things?
The vending machine is an interesting concept.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we would necessarily, as VisitErie, undertake.
That would be more
but
the
encouraging
the owner
others.
doing that, yeah.
But we're seeing, but I think that's a great idea, and I mean it's something that I've not seen before, but certainly would make sense.
I've noticed that places like Wegmans have gone all in on Erie materials and things, right? Just to make it easier to access.
Wegmans, Tops, it's a whole lot better than it used to be in terms of trying to find that. But
are they actually? Well, I think they're working with Erie apparel and stuff.
Yes,
but some of them, it seems like they're making their own stuff, or just commissioning it.
They are, and which is fine. Although getting back to our new logo and tagline. We've registered that, trademarked it, so we, the colors and everything else. So we want to make sure that.
Will you have T-shirts and gear?
Well, we're considering that,
okay.
And what we might be able to do or provide or allow, like Erie Apparel or someone else,
right? License it out
for that. In terms of Canada, we're not advertising heavily in Canada right now because the feedback we're getting is. They're not necessarily considering coming to the over into the States, and we're seeing that. I mean, we're seeing a 20% drop in vehicular traffic coming across the 3 bridges up in Western New York, which is the access to us. So we've decided to sit back on that a bit. Mm-hmm. We're advertising a little bit more in Buffalo this summer because we think that, and we're hearing that people in the States even are a little bit reticent about going into Canada. And it's a shame that, that there's a sense, I mean, in the past the border almost was a non-existent kind of border because everybody went back and forth on it. So we're waiting to see how this rolls out. Canada still isn't, we're still seeing some Canadians, but we're taking a bit of a break. We advertise in Buffalo, and of course, if we're advertising up there in electronic media, that carries across over.
Sure.
And frankly, in the past, we were doing advertising on TV and that where we knew Canadians were tuning into those U.S. Buffalo stations,
right?
Because we could reach that at a less expensive cost. So we're still keeping our eye on that. We're still where we have the opportunity, letting people know that Erie's still here and welcoming.
I mean, is it pretty much a strategy though? Is to reach out to those that are away from the Great Lakes? I mean, again, we're saying that the Great Lake is our greatest asset. So is it more appropriate to reach out to a Corning, New York, or not really.
Well,
I guess Corning could go to the Finger Lakes
right.
or something. Yeah,
I mean,
don't know.
we think the assets we have makes the Buffalo market. I mean, they're on the lake. They don't have the beach,
No.
the access we do, nor do they in Cleveland. And of course, I remember Nick's.
That's really amazing that you have a humongous market like Cleveland, and they don't have these kind of tourism assets.
Right. The one thing, we have a great lake here. Nick Scott Sr. told me years ago, he said, yeah, it's a blessing and it's a curse. And I said, well, the blessing is we have the lake to draw people. The curse is nobody lives on the lake. And so there's a huge amount of area that we can't market to because nobody lives there.
All of the minor league teams will tell you that most teams have 4 points on a compass to draw a crowd from. We only have 3.
And hence, as we start to look moving east into Johnstown and Altoona State College, even Harrisburg, it makes sense.
Yeah, just go deeper. I've got a text here, John. Ask your guest if he can somehow offset. Well, I don't know about offset, but somehow offset the very expensive hotel costs. I'm thinking of the hotel tax. My son-in-law travels quite a bit, and he tells us that he pays more for an Erie hotel room than anywhere else in the country. If we want people to visit Erie, why are we being punitive with what we charge visitors? I mean, isn't the market determine the hotel?
And the hotel tax that we have here, 7%, is nowhere near the most. You travel the country, you'll find taxes higher. Taxes are higher in Pittsburgh, they're higher in Cleveland, they're higher in Buffalo, the total tax, than it is here in Erie. It's the cost of the room itself, and that's market driven.
Yeah.
It's like anything. If it's not selling,
then it'll come down.
It comes down, and so the market, again, the hotels are charging, and we're not getting a lot of complaints from visitors saying that it's too high. It's high everywhere.
That is very true. Like, the market just had a surge, and now it's maybe having a correction right now.
That happens. I mean, that's like anything. They're again, it's market driven.
Let's grab another call. Hi, you're live with Joel and John here on Talk Erie.
How you guys doing?
Good. You got to get close to your mic if you would.
Can you hear me?
There you go. Go ahead.
I just have a question for the CEO. If you had started all over and you had 50,000 to your name, what business would you start?
Okie doke. I'll let him answer off the air. Thanks so much. I'm not sure he understands your role. I mean, VisitErie is a nonprofit, correct?
Correct. Yeah. We're not. Although it is an interesting question. It's. I really don't know how to answer what I might look to start. I mean,
would you start a food truck? Are we out? Are we over the top with food trucks?
No, I don't know that we are. I mean, that certainly would be an interesting way to start, and with the mobility that it offers.
And it gets you a start in case you ever want to go bricks and mortar.
Well, if I had to start, maybe based on this previous caller we had, I'd look at investing into some vending machines,
100%,
and put those around the area.
Well, I mean, and that's Joe from Branchville. He makes a good point that actually the hotels themselves are the ones that don't have gift shops anymore.
Right.
With back in the day when you had individual type hotels, mom and pop hotels, they might have a little manned gift shop or Notion stop.
Correct.
Now, if you go to like a Hilton Garden or any brand, I mean, I do a lot of Holiday Inn Expresses. They have that little nook that you can get a chips or a soda or something, but that's it.
Yeah, and
you can't get a T-shirt.
Right, and I think in some cases it was labor cost.
Sure,
it's having the merchandise, and having to buy that to have it on stock. But that certainly would open up the fact. Again, I have no idea what the cost, whether $50,000 would be 3 vending machines or
yeah,
more.
no.
But,
more than likely, you can get a vending machine for probably $1,000 or $2,000, I would think.
but
So you can get a lot of them.
anyway, that based
Plus
on
your inventory, right?
yeah, based on that idea, that's where I would go.
I love it. You're getting calls today, John. So hey, here's another one here. Hi, you're live with the head of the Visit Erie Tourism.
Real quick, how about a smuggler's crew? We can get David Fruit and narrate some stories while we drive. We take the tourists across the lake, have dinner in Canada, and then bring them back and maybe come into a speakeasy in the city.
I love that. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. No, that's a fantastic idea. I mean, talk about history and tourism, because the Hagen History Center is really kind of set up for that now with the whole thing with the Frank Lloyd Wright, right? I mean,
Absolutely, and they're looking at expanding the Frank Lloyd Wright. Offering. They're looking at how, from what I hear, more about doing Frank Lloyd Wright's life.
Oh,
as
really?
the person.
yeah.
So many of the Frank Lloyd Wright are sites that are his houses or his architecture.
Sure.
But as an individual, he was a rather unique, and a lot of stories about him. So, yeah, history is important in heritage, and the Hagen History Center is set up for that. They're already drawing people that are Wright aficionados.
I love going to the museum. If I'm spending more than a day somewhere,
Right.
I'll try to find the little hole in the wall museum somewhere.
But you have that. You have the Maritime Museum.
Yes.
So we have a lot of history here.
There's no doubt.
No doubt. And that is, one of the things that we're looking at promoting. It's history is what visitors are telling us, or potential travelers, is one of the things that they're interested in doing and seeing.
If you had that $50,000, like was said, would you spend it on doing a flip and doing an Airbnb? Is that still a thing right now?
Airbnbs or short-term rentals, because it
Right.
covers all
The
of that.
verbos and stuff.
They become very, very big, and they're big here in Erie.
Are they worth it? I mean, they could be expensive.
They can be. What we're seeing is that it's not really inexpensive to have that. There's a lot going on now with potential regulations, and registering.
But yeah, your aunt's old cottage on Kelso could be worth a ton of money in that space, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean there are individuals that are investing in properties to buy and then rent those out using the short-term rental platforms.
Pretty remarkable. We love checking in with John Oliver. We're in a really good place going into the summer as far as the assets that we have to bear, the events. We have the festivals coming up. I mean, there's a lot of a lot of things to make Erie attractive especially in the coming between now and September, I would think.
Absolutely, and again, it often comes down to in the summer weather.
Right.
Sure. I mean that's the one thing that we can't change, but hopefully we're going to be seeing warmer temperatures. April and May definitely have been a long spring,
right.
And cold, but we're always anticipating that we kick off the season really this coming weekend.
Yep.
And we think it's now it continues right through the fall.
And the gas prices are even such where those people coming up from Johnstown, it's not going to take much to fill that tank.
Right. They're saying that gas prices may be the lowest since 2003.
Holy moly.
So, I mean, and we're a rubber tire market.
Yes, we are.
That people that get here generally drive here.
Again, the addition of the water taxi, you've got Erie Events booking the Liberty Park Amphitheater now. I mean, again, there's just so many different things for people to choose. Next week, we're going to talk to the guys from Downtown Partnership. I mean, they've got so many plans for live events and things going on here in our neck of the woods here in the neighborhood.
It's amazing. Anyone that says that they can't, there's nothing to do in Erie in the summer
Right.
is certainly not looking.
Yeah. All right. So I got 30 seconds. What would you have the average Erie listener do with this new vibe and this new logo and brand?
Well, we encourage them, invite your friends and relatives to come and visit and experience the good life that you as a resident are already experiencing.
John Oliver, the CEO of VisitErie, I appreciate you so much, buddy. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.